Welcome, friends. We are proud to announce Marcy Tiberio as the Notary Stars Notary of the Year 2026. At Notary Stars, we recognize and choose individuals for this award who are truly making a difference in their communities and leading our industry forward through action and advocacy. Based in Rochester, New York, Marcy's journey in the industry began with foundation in law and title. She transitioned from a career as a paralegal and an assistant vice president at a national title company to become a full-time notary public. In 2013, she launched Professional Notary Services, Inc., a signing service that reflects her high standards for accuracy and professionalism. Beyond her own business, Marcy has become a tireless advocate for our profession. As co-founder of the New York Notary Alliance, she gave notaries a seat at the legislative table, successfully influencing remote online notarization laws and promoting the importance of notary journals. Whether serving as an NNA notary ambassador or mentoring those just starting out, Marcy embodies the spirit of professional excellence. Her approach to this work is best summarized by her own core philosophy, which appeared in the NNA article announcing her 2025 NNA Notary of the Year award. And she said, quote, "Being a notary signing agent isn't just about the mechanics of the job. It's about providing exceptional customer service, being kind to people, and understanding the significance of the documents being signed." Marcy, we are so glad to have you here with us today and to be able to dive into your career and the unique perspective that makes your leadership so vital to our profession.
You are all so kind, and that was such a lovely introduction. I feel the pressure now to live up to all of that. But thank you all so much. I am beyond honored, super emotional, so hopefully I don't cry a little bit here. But really, what an honor from an amazing group of people. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
Well, we appreciate you, Miss Marcy. I have to tell you, with the Notary Star of the Year award, we are looking for people within their own communities and who reach out to other communities who make a difference. And, honestly, I think this is just amazing, to follow for the National Notary of the Year to, get the Notary Star of the Year award. We look up to you and we consider you a lifeline over here at Notary Stars. We've reached out to you many times over the year, past year or two to ask questions when it relates to your neck of the woods or get advice on other things. So we appreciate you just being out there and be willing to help. And I've never once reached out to you and not gotten like, how can I help? So we're very appreciative of you. Now, I want to start off with the first question, okay? Because and I think this is a great question coming from a signing service owner, myself. From what I understand, you made a career pivot that you once was had a high level role as an assistant vice president at a national title company and a paralegal career before you were becoming a notary. So what about the notary profession convinced you to make such a leap? And I have to say, before answering that question, I also want to know, how did you know you had enough security to make a leap from that? So that's kind of like a two-part question there.
Okay, so I did not know I had any sort of security. I think that, so I actually my last place of employment was sort of a toxic workplace. And I think when you're in the midst of it, you really don't realize maybe how toxic it is, because that's sort of the industry. I hate to say that out loud, but working 80 hours a week is not unheard of. Nights, weekends, around the clock, holidays, right? Like you give up vacation time because it's too busy and you can't go. I think there came a point where I realized there has to be a little bit more to this than that. And one of my previous title company customers, I was working for a mortgage banker, said, "Hey, do you think you might want to do some signings on the side, like at night or on the weekends to help us out in your area?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's try." And I think that kind of instilled in me, you know what? I deserve better. I deserve more. I am going to put 80 hours a week into me in my own business. And how could I grow that? So I think when we talk about security, I don't think I felt like I know I can do this. Although I had tons of contacts in the title and banking world, and I was super fortunate for that. I think the security came from, I'm going to give it a try. And if it doesn't work, then I'll go find something else to do. Like, I'm comfortable in change. And I think that's where the security came from. I'm 40 something years old. It's time for me to make a difference in my own life versus a difference in everyone else's.
I love that. And, strangely, being a notary, you are making a difference in everyone else's. So everyone you come
Yes.
in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to ask about you founded Professional Notary Services Inc. in 2013, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was the defining moment or that spark or gap in the market that you saw that motivated you to say, I'm going to stop being the one out in the field all the time and oversee others out in the field? What was that moment, or what was it that made you say, hey, I'm going to take this even further than just being a notary?
I think that if I look back on it now, I think there were a few different things. One is that I just was too busy to do all of the work that was coming in. And my clients were asking, like, do you have resources in another county or another state or someone that you trust? And I was like, well, this is, something I should look into. And I started sort of small. I started with colleagues here in the Rochester area that worked, outside of these counties, and was like, do you want to give a hand and see how that goes? I also felt like there was a disconnect between some signing service owners and notaries because they had never either been a notary or weren't doing signings at all, or didn't really understand the challenges. And I was a little concerned. Like, I felt as though someone needs to be, yes, making money because we're a business, but we also need to be advocating for the notaries at the same time while we're providing them business, right? I take that very seriously, that I have a responsibility to people who work for me. So my intent, I think, when I started was, how can I get all this work out to other people who are doing a great job and deserve it? And how can I also influence a little bit of the signing service space by being an advocate for those notaries?
Got it. Now, that brings me to a really great next question here. You talked about and I love that you said that there's a lot of signing services that start with people who aren't actual notaries, or they're not great experiences, or don't have a lot of experience. I see that a lot with people who call in on the Notary Stars support line. They're working with signing services that may not exactly be very equipped to run a signing service. But speaking from the notary's perspective, what do you think is the most important thing for an independent notary to understand about how signing services operate and what they value most in partners?
So I think you kind of just said it. Like, I want to be partners with the notaries who work for me. I feel like we're all a team, right? Like, I want to support you and I need you to support me. I'm not a big fan of like the us versus them mentality that we seem to see more and more lately. I've never operated in that space. I've always felt like we were a team, right? And I can't do what I do without you. And for some of them, you need me as well, right? If you don't want to market, if you like the work coming directly to you. I've had notaries who've been with me since the start for 13 years, right? And I know about their families, they know about mine. I might not talk to them for a month because every signing goes smoothly. There's no issues. We send an email back and forth and things go well. Sometimes I talk to them every single day, every single month. It just depends, but we're a team. And I feel like that is where we've sort of lost in this space is, why do we not operate all for the same common goal, which for me is the consumer? They are, at the end of the day, the most important piece of the puzzle. And if I have to, however I have to get the situation done for them within legal boundaries, just to be clear, I'm not asking anyone anything to do legal, but however I have to get that done, I'm going to get done because they're the reason why I do this.
I love that answer, and thank you for elaborating on it. Now, I want to be fair about asking questions today, so I'm going to kick this over to Amy. And Amy's going to kind of take us down a couple of questions that we wanted to know about advocacy and leadership.
Hello, Marcy. So my first question is a two-part question. We like these two-part questions if you can't figure this out yet. What was the primary catalyst that motivated you to co-found the New York Notary Alliance, also known as NYNA, And what does your day-to-day work with the organization look like today?
So I think for me, NINA was a spur of the moment idea. I'm one of those people who's like, this sounds like fun. Let's give it a try. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it does not. I didn't realize just the level of commitment and time that operating a state association would take, especially in the advocacy space. But what we really felt like here in New York was there was no one to really advocate for us. Our state isn't super involved with notary laws. It's really difficult to get an answer from the SOS. They'll send you back to your handbook, which doesn't have all the answers in it. We have had a difficult time getting legislation here passed, right? Our notary fee has been $2 since 1991. There's no one really representing the notary community, and there was no good place for notaries to go to get state-specific answers. Even outside of like what's legal, as you all know, in every state, there are things that are also customary, right? That might not be in the law. And you really need someone who's boots on the ground in that state to talk to you about those customary things that fall outside of what we see in handbooks or the law. And that's really what I thought was lacking here. I felt like, could I try to fill that need? And so that's sort of what we did. On a day-to-day basis, it really is sort of like, what are we working on today? Like, is it education? Is it advocacy? Do I need to call legislators? We're working on some legislation now. I had no idea how involved this was going to be. It's probably been a year-long process. It's been written a few times. We've gone back and forth. But what's nice is that a year later, I have legislators now who will reach out and say, hey, we have this pending bill. What are notaries' thoughts on it? Like, what does your group think about it? What are the pros and cons? It took us 3 years to get to this point, and certainly a year of very involved advocacy. So for me, it's just a little piece of every day. Am I calling a legislator? Am I making a phone call? Am I posting in my group about an experience or a topic I saw in a notary group that I'm like, hey, just so that you guys all know, this is how we handle it in New York. These are the rules here. It's not one of those things that I think is set out in stone. It's wherever the need feels that day and wherever I get pulled in whatever direction we're working on at that moment. And usually it's, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, maybe an hour or two someplace else. But it's a daily occurrence that NINA gets worked on in some shape or form.
Well, that's amazing. And it's good that every day you do something, you move forward, and that is a positive step every single day. And of course, we all know that my favorite aspect of notary world is online notarization. So I can't go without asking about your work with New York's remote online notary legislation and the journal requirements. That was a major victory for you and the New York notaries. What advice would you give to notaries in other states that want to get involved in advocacy, but they don't really know where to start?
I think that you just need to do something. And I can't say it any more than even here, when I'll call a legislator, they'll say, hey, are you in my district? And I'll be like, no, I'm in another county. And they'll be like, okay, well, we haven't heard from any notaries in our district about this issue. They want to hear from their own constituents. So whether it's dropping a letter or a quick email or a phone call, or if you drive by their office, I think first and foremost, you need to introduce yourself to whoever your legislator is, right? They don't know you. They want to know you. They want to know what topics are important to you. So if you really don't know where to start, make that connection. Talk to your state association or talk to people who are prominent in the notary community in your state, because they likely have some resources or they need help to do something. We worked very hard on the journal bill, and we made sure that we made notaries aware what was important, what they could do to help. Could they send a letter? Could they make a phone call? Could they just sign a petition where they put their name to it? I think legislation is really about action. If you want to advocate, you need to advocate for yourself. And doing that means making connection.
Awesome. Basically, you got to start somewhere, and the first place is say hello, right?
Always.
All right. And now, given your background in title and escrow, what are the most common risky habits that you see in notaries falling into that could jeopardize the signing or their commission? And this can be in person or online.
I think first, not knowing your notary laws. I can't tell you how many times I'll say to a notary, does your law allow that? Can you use witnesses? And they'll be like, sure. And then I'll say, Are you positive? Well, I feel good about it, they'll tell me, Marcy. Okay, well, I hope that you have that feeling when you get called into court and they ask you about it there, because that's what's going to happen most likely. Like, I think the basis of anything we do, whether it's loan signings or upstee work or, online or in person, you got to know your notary laws. And that for me is the number one thing. On top of that, I'm also going to say, please stop listening to the companies who don't know your law, who are asking you to do things that you should not be doing. A lot of times I'll have a notary say to me, well, I work for this other XYZ company and they told me that's how I had to do it. But if you know that that's not allowed in your state, and I know it's hard to say no, you have to. That's what you are. You're the expert in your space. So for me, that first and foremost is key. I think the second piece is treating this, monetizing your commission without the understanding that you're a public official and what your true role is, right? We are notaries first who monetize our commission. The integrity of the role that we play has to be there no matter what, whether we're getting paid for it or not paid for it or what we're doing. And I see a lot of people who treat it just as a business and forget that there are people on the other side. So they are like, it's fine if I'm 3 hours late for closing, or, no call, no show. Is it really a big deal? It might not be a big deal for you, but the person who has to refinance because they need that money to pay their kids' college education, or they have to refinance to get out of foreclosure, those are big things. Those are big things for them. And we need to keep that in mind when we just don't feel like going to a closing, or it's not a big deal if we're 3 hours later. I don't mind changing the time. Like, who really cares about all of that? To me, I think those two things go hand in hand. You have to remember what your law is and what your role is. And the monetizing part is good. We all need that. We're in business, right, to make money. But for me, I don't ever treat my business that way. I treat it first as, how am I getting the consumer what they need? How do I get from point A to B so that we're all safe and no one's going to notary jail, right? We just want to make sure that everything gets done properly. So for me, the signing service, I think I see a lot of that. We're missing out on the integrity piece, and we really don't have our skill set down anymore. It's something that's very strange to me. I don't know if it's a lack of training in the state's part, or it's all of the free resources, or we don't really understand the importance of what we're doing anymore. Like, it's so commonplace maybe, but we really need to buckle back down. Know your notary law and remember what your role is in the transaction.
I love every word of what you just said.
Me too.
Thank you.
Me too. I was just thinking about the training programs that put the monetization first. No, it's the integrity of the office. It's knowing your job, truly.
And let me say this to anyone listening. By doing that, by putting your role first as a notary, success follows you. That's how you make good money. That's where the higher paying customers come in. I see notaries all the time are like, I want better customers, direct customers, higher paying customers. That's how you're going to get them, by the reputation that you build in the field that you're in. So trust me when I tell you, it really is critical that you know your notary law, but on top of that, you follow that professional role as a public official.
It's like Ronnie says, you can't skip the line.
100%.
All
So
right.
Marcy, it's Manuel. This actually takes us to navigating challenges. So in digital diplomacy, social media can be a very difficult space, especially when correcting inaccurate information. How do you personally handle the pushback or not so nice interactions while maintaining your professional standards?
Well, that's an excellent question. Because I don't know how I do that. I think what I try to remind notaries is that just because somebody is confident in their answer to you doesn't make it correct, right? Like, we have to go to trusted sources. Trust but verify that. And I say that to my notaries too in my NINA group. I'm like, here's what I'm going to tell you. You should still go out and verify what I'm telling you is correct. I don't want you to take what I'm saying at face value either. That's so important that you do that whole trust but verification thing. I think sometimes it's hard not to snap back. I think we see it in some of the groups where people are like, I can't believe you did that. How dare you? And even sometimes I think to myself, oh my goodness, they didn't really do that, did they? And then I have to step back and say to myself, well, Marcy, like, how did you know? Where did you learn? Where did you get this information? It sounds like it might make sense and common knowledge, but I also have a very extensive background in notary and real estate and mortgages. And so that some of that just came because of what I've done before. If you have no experience in that space, I think sometimes we forget, like, okay, well, did someone tell you not to print double-sided? Right? You and I might be thinking that's silly. Like, we should all know that. But why should we know? Why should someone new know that? So I really try to step back and say, okay, I have to be cognizant that not everyone has the background that I have. And I will say 90% of the time, people are so nice when you just send them a separate message and be like, hey, I saw what you posted. I just want to tell you that, this is a better idea or a better way or a better resource for you to get the correct answer. Most of them are really open to it. They appreciate that. The people who are not appreciative of that, I feel bad for them because they're probably not going to go very far in the community. And that's unfortunate because I believe in community over competition. I believe that more of us that are out here doing the right thing, who are skilled, we elevate the notary public profession, and that makes us look better to everyone. So if you want to be the weak link, then that's your choice. But I'm going to take everyone else who wants to learn, who wants to do better with me, and then you can stay where you are, which I know sounds harsh, but it took me a long time to realize I can't make everyone do the right thing. I can't make everyone feel the way that I think they should feel, right? I can only help those who are open to that.
That's music to my ears.
I know it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to come to, right, Ronnie? It really is, because you just never want to leave someone behind. You never want to be like, but let me just please listen to what I'm telling you. And it took me a long time to get here. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. There are still times where I'm like, but wait, but listen. And then I have to remind myself, like, you're just wasting time. Go to that other person who's open to hearing what you have to say.
Amen.
Bill Soroka said something to me one time and it stuck with me, and I've quoted it many, many, many times. He said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And, I feel the same way. Sometimes I just really want to be like, hey, come over here. It's safe over here. And which is all why I started Notary Stars, because I felt like there was a lot of, crowding out there and not really like a loving space for education and a lot of misinformation out there. And I had mentioned that to him one time. So I always like to share that with people, because sometimes I have to remind myself, when the student is ready, then the teacher becomes available. Even though you're available, you're no good to them until they're ready to listen.
True. And I think we have to get away from the whole everyone should be a notary. I know everyone loves saying this, but like, not everyone is meant to be a notary public. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I was not meant to be a ballerina, right? I'm super clumsy. I can barely walk 2 feet and fall over. That doesn't say anything bad about, being a ballerina, other than it's just not what I'm set out to do. I think sometimes we tell notaries, or they hear this whole, you can make 6 figures and do whatever you want and make your own schedule. And then they jump into the profession realizing it's not really like that, right? Like, there's a lot more that goes into it. And there's nothing wrong with saying that's not the life for me. Like, being a notary is not my thing. I think that's great. I think knowing what you want in life and what you are good at and can excel at is most important.
Marcy, what a great ending. Let's talk about managing difficulty. When you encounter a high-stress situation, whether it's legislative setback or a difficult signing, what is your personal strategy for staying grounded and finding a solution?
First, I like to rant a little bit. I walk away from my computer and I, bebop up and down my office, hooting and hollering about, I can't believe this. And I find it soothing to get all of that out right in one shot. And then I go back and I think to myself, how am I going to get this done? Like, at the end of the day, that's all I really care about. How am I going to get there? It doesn't have to be a straight line from A to B, but can I get there in, 5 steps? Who can help me get there? And I'll be honest and say, if you'd asked me this 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, I'll just figure it out on my own. It has taken me, I'm not going to say how old I am, but a long time to realize it is okay to call on those connections you've made over time. It's wild to me that I would have never done that before. I really am in a place now where I don't mind asking for help. Like Ronnie said, he's called me. I've called them. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great to have collaboration because sometimes someone on the outside can say, you're looking at this the wrong way, or you've been looking at it too long. What about this? Or someone else to bounce ideas around. I think a lot of times when we end up in these challenging situations, maybe there's a little bit of embarrassment. Maybe you just think you can do it on your own. But I really am in a space today where who can I call? Who can I help? There's no reason why I go to all these conferences and meet all these people and do all of these networking events and then never use the resources, the connections that I've made. That's silly. Why not use them? And that's what I really try now to do is how can I get to where I'm going and who can help me get there?
I love it.
That's amazing.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I think we're up for Kirsten now. We're going to talk a little bit about philosophy and future here.
Yeah, save the best for last, right?
Yes.
100%.
We're doing all the courses today. Okay.
So you mentioned earlier about making sure that your students or notaries find out for themselves what, if you teach them something, just because you say it, they need to find out for themselves if it's something true that they can do as a notary. So you stated that being a signing agent isn't just about the mechanics, the knowing that those statutes, those rules, those regulations of the job. How do you teach new notaries to balance those technical requirements of the law with kindness and exceptional service that you advocate for?
That's an excellent question. I think that it's hard, right? It's very hard. And that's why I say not everyone is meant to be a notary or notary signing agent. Because I think there is a piece of it that really is about you and your personality and the way that you operate as a person dealing with other people. So I always like to start there. Because really at the end of the day, I can teach you mechanics all day long. But if you're not the kind of person who is empathetic or compassionate, who works with kindness, who has the ability to be a problem solver, I don't think we talk about that enough. Sometimes being a signing agent is really about being a problem solver, right? Like you get there, they're all in the middle of dinner, the wife is checking her phone, and you're like, okay, we need to corral everyone, take control, get this done for them, right? It's a hard thing to teach someone. I think you have to be inherently predisposed to being a people person first. I think you have to be predisposed to being something of a helper. And I always say helpers are kind of how notaries get in trouble. But at the end of the day, I do think it's an important aspect to have. Like it is imperative to understand that there's something going on behind the scenes that maybe I know nothing about. I got there, everybody's angry, you can feel the tension, and you're just like, how am I going to get this done as quickly as possible before, World War III breaks out in this living room? Those are things that really require problem solving skills, right? Negotiation skills. Years ago, I wrote an article and it was pretty much like, we are part magician, part problem solver, diplomat. Like we are all the things when it comes to loan signing. So first, beyond your skill set, you really have to have those characteristics that make you a good signing agent. And then I really, as I always say, I come from a place of how am I getting this done for the consumer, right? Like, how can I get this accomplished? And that doesn't always mean getting everything signed. Sometimes it means walking away, right? Like if you are in a situation where you think there might be fraud or there's a competency issue with an older person, you feel like the family is maybe pushing them or they're under duress, walking away is the best thing for them. It is helping them get something accomplished. I think sometimes we always think it has to be the completion part. It doesn't have to be the completion part necessarily. It has to be what's best for all the entities involved. And that's another key piece of this, right? Like when to figure out when you can say yes and when you can say no. So for me, there's not a good answer to that question, although I probably spent just 10 minutes telling you what I thought. It's really important, I think, that we come from a place of common sense and empathy and compassion for what we're trying to do, staying within the law, and then using the resources at our disposal. calling your hiring company, calling the signing company, calling your state association or national association for guidance, like using those resources that are available. You're not out there on your own. I'm not going to advocate you necessarily going out into a Facebook group or YouTube is your first choice, right? Like really go to those trusted resources that can give you a little more guidance.
That was great. I also think that you have to have that customer service with it too. It's not just, going there, being a robot, having them sign. Like you were saying, you have to care about the people. You have to be able to, think on your feet, but help them. What's the end goal that you want with that appointment? And how can you get there legally and professionally? Oh, right.
And it's their appointment, right? I think we forget that sometimes too. We get so angry. We're like, they made me take my shoes off when I went in their house. Who cares? It's their house. Take off your shoes, right? Like if they want to sign on the front porch, on a picnic table, if it's not raining or snowing or my papers aren't going to blow it, I don't care. It's your appointment. It's your time, right? If you want to stand on your head and sign papers and you can sign your name properly, listen, have at it. Now, I'm not going to say anything, outside of really wild, but I think sometimes we forget this is the convenience of the signer and the consumer, right? They pick the time, they pick a place for a reason. We have to control what goes on in that space. But at the end of the day, not everything has to be about what I want is the notary. I'll kick off my shoes, have my blue pen, right? If you want to keep the TV on in the background, it's not bothering anybody. I don't really care. That's really up to you because it's your time, right? It's your space.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
absolutely.
Amen.
Right. So the big question.
Okay.
As the Notary Stars Notary of the Year of 2026, what do you see as the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity facing the notary community over the next few years? Get your crystal ball out and let's see.
I really think, I'm going to say, there are multiple things, but at the end of the day, notaries just don't advocate for themselves enough. Like I just don't see enough. I see tons of complaining, and I hate to be this person, but like every group has 50 posts about, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not going to say what this, that, and that thing are because I think everyone knows. But like, what are you doing to change that? How is posting in a group making a difference? Let's make a difference. Get together. I'm not talking about price fixing or all this other nonsense, but what I'm talking about is advocating for yourselves. Who can I talk to? What change can we make? How do I get there? Is it going to happen right away? People, it is not going to happen right away. It's going to take forever. And maybe some of these things we can never change because there are all these related industries involved, not in just the signing agent space, but in the notary space as well, right? But the more that you lend the profession a voice, the more people will listen. They may not take action on what you're saying, but you've made a dent. And for me, that's the biggest piece about NINA is we haven't really gotten everything done we wanted to. I haven't gotten much done that I wanted to, but I have made a dent in the people who reach out and say, hey, Marcy, what do you think about this? Hey, Marcy, we don't agree with you. And I actually don't care if they don't agree with me because they still thought to call and tell me they didn't agree with me. And I'm like, I'm still top of mind for somebody. So I'm happy about that. I think notaries are missing out on a huge opportunity. There is no better time than now to advocate for yourselves, right? I think there's some figure, don't quote me, but like it's a 300% increase in notary laws that are being proposed across the country over the past decade or something. It's a really large number. What are we doing? Is anyone reaching out and talking about that? Is anyone saying, here's our challenges, here's our issues, here's what we need to talk about? I think we're missing the boat. And I'm going to tell you this, there's nothing worse than having another group or demographic tell you how to do your job without you giving any input whatsoever. I think this is our time, and I think we're missing out on it a little tiny bit. So if you're listening to this and you think I've gotten on a soapbox, you're probably right, but please, please advocate for yourselves, not just in the groups, but out in real life, right? Go in the real world and talk to associations, attorneys, lawyers, title companies, your legislators, your SOS, whoever governs you. Talk to who everybody will listen.
I love this because you're pointing out that there's a difference between complaining and advocating, and you're also pointing out that in social media, where you're talking to another group of notaries, you're talking to yourself. You're not talking out loud and getting outside of that social media group. We see the same things that everybody else does going around the internet. Well, complaints don't bring change. Properly displayed grievances to the right people bring upon change. So you can sit there and complain and bash and do all of these things that you want to about what you don't like about your job, but you need to talk to the person who administers your commission or to the people who put together those notary laws so that they can administer your notary commission. So I'm 100% in agreement and appreciate that answer there for doing that, for bringing that to light. And I love that you keep saying for those listening, because I can't wait to promote that particular piece of the of the interview here.
Well, should anybody be listening to that, I really feel so blessed to be able to be in this position somewhat, because it took me a long time to get someone out there to listen to me. And so that's why I advocate so hard for notaries. Like, just believe me when I tell you, I know it seems like it's impossible and nothing will ever change, but things will change. They will. Things will change as long as we stand up for our profession. And we really need to take it from that place of, this is our profession. This is what we do. This is who we are, right? When people ask you, you're like, hey, I'm a notary. Don't you say that? It's who you are. You don't have a lot of people say like, hey, I'm a waitress at Pizza Hut. And I always say that because I used to work at Pizza Hut. But I'm just saying, right? Notary is so ingrained in us, I think, as individuals, that it's really part of the fabric of who we are.
Yeah, amen.
Miss Marcy, I want to thank you for spending your time with us today, for us to be able to ask you some questions more to help others get to know you. So you have shined so bright in your own community that it's now nationwide. Okay, it's not just someone who took a leap from going from a vice president position at a title company into becoming a mobile notary, who also then started a signing service and then started an advocacy group for their state. You are now ringing bells nationwide. And, when we were looking out at who we wanted to acknowledge this year, what we look for is someone who is doing exactly what you're doing. You are not being selfish. It's not an attention seeking type role that you're looking for, which we have to be very, very careful of in this community when it comes to people who are guiding others. You are literally so ingrained, and you've said so much just in this interview. You're so great ingrained into the notary community in your own state that is now becoming kind of infectious into other states. You have people reaching out to you from other states. And I want to say that you are truly an example of a notary star in my mind, and as well as our staff's mind, for all that you've done and all that you'll continue to do. We offer our thanks and our love and support for everything that you're doing. And we hope that you will continue to be recognized for what you're doing. Last year you got the National Notary of the Year award, and this year Notary Stars of the Year award. And we hope that people will that see this will look out and see what they can recognize you for next year and continue to listen. Don't let for anybody watching, don't let the wave of recognition for this woman end here. Continue listening and keep that wave going, because Miss Marcy has done so much already for the notary community. We want to keep that wave rolling. And that's why we're doing this, is to recognize you so that that wave that you've built of such wonderful intentions for our community keeps going as far as it can possibly go.
Thank you, Miss Marcy. You are an amazing woman. I am so glad you are the recipient of the 2026 Notary Stars of the Year award.
I am overwhelmed. And I'm so grateful to be part of your community. And I really feel that way. So I hope that everyone out there knows that, my community is open to you as well. I think it's important to know that if you need help or assistance, you want to talk about legislation or advocacy, you just want to talk about notary stuff, reach out. Like I'm really open to all of that. And I hope that this collaboration that we've all started in the notary world, because I do feel like over the course of the last couple of years, we really have come together. This continues because this is how we're going to get things done. So you guys are amazing. I don't know that I'm going to be able to live all up to this, but it just adds pressure to what I need to get done over here. And I thrive under pressure. So good for you for putting me in that place. But you're all an amazing group and crew. And I just can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. Really, it means the world to me.
Well, there's no pressure to live up to it because you have already won. So you don't have to live up to anything. You have already lived up to it. But you are carbon based, and this is kind of the geeky side of me. So if the pressure gets to you too much, you'll be a diamond. So
Thank you.
all right.